Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is the show where I interview successful e commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today I'm really excited to welcome Robert Patton to the show. Robert is the founder and CEO of Sheath Underwear and also a former US Army veteran. Sheath Underwear is a premium men's pouch underwear company that sells to active men in over 74 countries. Robert is also the host of Robert Patton Global Podcast. And today I
Mm,
want to ask Robert a few questions about his entrepreneurial story and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So, really
mhm.
excited, and thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I looked a little bit into the podcast. I guess it's something like a TED Talks for entrepreneurs ish kind of spinoff, right?
Yeah, I want to learn about the exciting and interesting stories of entrepreneurs, how they got started, and what their startup story is like, and maybe when they share some of the strategies and tactics. So I think it can be quite inspirational for the new generation of entrepreneurs to learn and get inspired to start new businesses. So, having said that, I'm very interested in
Mhm,
your story. So, you were an Army
mhm.
veteran and you started this business. Can you share a little bit about, how you got started? Did you get the idea for sheath underwear when you were still in the Army?
I did. I was literally in Iraq serving, on tour, my second tour. And, they say necessity is the mother of invention. And you can edit that. Necessity is the mother of invention. And you hear that growing up, but it's like not that many people are maybe that inventive because I've kind of been entrepreneurial my whole, since my teens and on. But I've had numerous ventures trying to start like small businesses selling coupon vouchers to Vegas, and I had a previous invention that honestly would have been $1 billion idea. It's in every Walmart and Home Depot. It's like these keys for, the with a football team on them. Like I invented that before
Okay.
it even happened. So I kind of had that type of a mind frame going into the Army. I went into the Army in 2006, and I was like at a bit of a dead end with my college tuition and my job. I was doing HR, human resources at a company called Eye Care Centers of America. And, like just I felt I was 26. I didn't have that many options. So I joined the Army, and that really changed my life around. It showed me that I was a man. I, I felt like I was still a boy prior to joining the Army, and it really helped me develop and um, evaluate myself amongst my peers, and I really stood out amongst my peers. But that's kind of a little bit of a backstory. So I started excelling in the Army, went on our first tour, came back, and then on our second tour was when I had the invention, and it was a little bit less intense battle wise on the second tour. There was like it was pretty relaxed actually, and I was going to school. I had started meditating. I was doing yoga. I was trying to like I had started watching The Secret. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've heard of that. I'm
I
sure
have, yeah.
many people have. Right, the law of attraction. And I started really trying to open my mind to that possibilities, the potential of manifesting these things. And I had read Think and Grow Rich, which I always mention about when I was 23, so about 3 years prior. I had kind of gotten the seed of that type of thinking, shifting from the cubicle, rat race type of thought and trying to escape that and create something for myself. And um but you asked about the invention, and I it was just really hot, and it
Mm.
was so hot. I said it's hotter than the devil's balls. It was like extremely uncomfortable. And I was in Iraq, and
Mm.
our generators had gone out, so we had no power. It was the summer of 2008, and I I was wearing these old underwear, like the old whitey tidy army issued underwear that were actually probably someone else's that got mixed in the laundry because we're all doing like laundry together, and they were too big and they were cutting into my thighs. And I already have sensitive skin.
mm,
Okay, so now I'll get to the point, like, because most people, have that problem sometimes, but don't think to fix it. It's like you just unstick yourself from your
mm,
leg and go about your day.
mm,
But this was so bad
mm,
that I was like, I cannot bear this another moment. I like, I ran inside a little place that we lived. I don't know what they're called anymore, but I just grabbed a towel and I stuffed it down my pants. So I'm sorry, but I was just
mhm,
trying to separate everything,
mm,
and it provided some relief initially, and that kind of got me thinking that if I was like, why doesn't underwear like have a little separating section for the man parts? Because
mm,
that would be really helpful right now. And I was like, somebody probably has come up with this. So I went
mm,
online. We had, by this time, 2008, we had online in Iraq. The first tour was much less access, but this tour was a little bit more. And so I started searching pouch underwear. Couldn't find anything for weeks. Finally, I found something that was similar, and it's obviously out of Australia is the company, obviously, which
okay.
it made sense to me. Like, obviously, why doesn't
Mhm,
underwear have a pouch? And it's a similar concept as far as separating the men parts from in between your legs, but it was a more primitive kind of design in my opinion, because it like just smashes everything together still. And so it was I actually ordered some from them and I got them and I was like, okay, but it wasn't quite right, and I felt like I needed to do better just for myself. It wasn't even, I wasn't thinking I'm going to start a $1 million company or anything yet.
mm,
um just for myself. And so I went to the tailor. We had tailors in Iraq, and I had taken some underwear and some a sketch pad of a drawing like what I wanted them to sew, which was basically sewing a pouch
mm.
inside a piece of fabric inside the underwear, that so when you put them on you could just separate your boys from the inner thigh region. And they snickered at me, and it's kind of, I always, it's like, who's this guy? What he's You
Mhm,
don't alter your underwear. You're just supposed to make them shorter or longer, your
mhm.
pants, not your underwear. But they did it, and it was way too tight, and it wasn't comfortable at all. But the concept was born, and I had like somewhere to start from.
And do you
So,
find, because the more main motivation for this idea, I guess, was the climate, the heat.
mhm.
Um, do you find that, given this design, your main market is in in areas where it's hotter? Uh,
Yes, I mean the southern states from Texas to Florida are typically very busy during the summer months, and but California, New York, these highly populated areas are also just, I think we get our most sales from like LA and New York City.
mm.
But I think that's just because it's such a high concentration of people, and we market in those areas pretty heavily.
And um, so sorry, a question came to mind and it just just slipped. Um, so how did you, no, I remember it now. So your underwear would be considered more of like a luxury item, right? At the price point. Um, have you ever thought of, because there's so many places in the world that are like, deserts and hot places and things like that. Have you ever thought about like creating a mass consumer version of it that can be like mass produced and sold everywhere? Because people who are living in like really hot places, I think there definitely would be a market for this.
Yeah, and that's where it was invented. And we like, you mentioned earlier, we're sold in 74 countries. We do have people buying from the Middle East region, but it's not that many. And I would like to focus more. we were gonna try to break through in Abu Dhabi. This lady was telling me that she had connections because she has an office there, and she was gonna make me pay her $35,000 for a maybe, like an introduction. So I was like, oh, I don't. Let's no, but I have a plan, and we sponsor UFC fighters, a lot of them, and it occurred to me this guy was fighting on the main event card on Saturday. His name is Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad,
Okay.
Bilal Muhammad, and he's like, I don't know where he's from. I think it might be Iraq, but he has that, Middle Eastern look, but he looks like a model though, like a Middle Eastern model. And I reached out to him. We're already talking. We've already sent him a care package, and we're going back and forth. But I want him to be like almost the face of Sheath for the Middle East, because sometimes it helps for people to see someone that looks like them wearing a product to give it validation. Different segments of different markets. Like a white man's not going to appeal as much maybe to a black person and vice versa. Although I was just watching OJ,
Mm,
and he was like this, he broke through all the racial barriers of marketing, and he was the face of Hertz and stuff. And we started out with just our friends and stuff, and like me and people that I knew, and it has grown to the point where now we have every race, sex, or sexual orientation, like all these different people representing Sheath. There's no real it's not confined or to one segment. It's like a worldwide product. It's just men, all men,
mm, mm,
whatever race. And there's a guy, and I'll let you ask another question, but his name is Laith Ashley, and he's a trans male.
mm,
So he transitioned to a male, and he wears Sheath.
mm.
And that's just, he's like a Versace model, so I mention him from time to time because he's like this, people, we're finding more and more people higher profile status that to represent our brand, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I know when I read your story online, when I was researching it, I think I read that when you started for the first few years, the idea didn't really take off, like in terms of sales and things like that. Can you share a little bit about your initial experience and what kept you going? Like,
Mhm.
you had created this idea and you were using it, your friends were using it. It wasn't really taking off commercially, but for some reason you just kept at it. And how, like, were you doing other jobs at that time to keep you financially, um, taken care of and things like that?
Well, when I first had the idea, I was still in the army, and I was still in the army until 2011, and we had like the end of 2011, so around about 2012, and we had our first launch in 2010, which I had the idea in 2008. So about a year and a half later, 2 years, we launch, and it was out of a company in Pakistan, and they delivered the product. It was our first production, but what had happened was I was too quick to go to production, and so
Mm,
the product wasn't ready, and so that was the obstacle. Which now, I spent my last $5,000 on a product that I can't sell because it was premature. And so, what kept me going? I read this book, like I mentioned earlier, Think and Grow Rich. For one, it's called, and one of the 17 principles of success is persistence. You don't It's not over until you quit. It's not over until you give up. And I really felt as though I was sitting on a gold mine. Um, and because people would ask me, like, are you serious? Like, do you really think this is going to take off? And there was not even the slightest doubt in my, like, there's no doubt. I was 100% sure. Because why? Because I love the product. I wore it. And I was like, if I like it this much, I really feel like other people are going to like it. I just need to fix it and get it out to them. So that belief and that faith that it would ultimately succeed and change my life and many others is kind of what kept me going.
So you started in 2008. This is 2021, so
Mm,
almost 13 years. Um, and I think you said that you hit the $1 million mark in revenue, right? In what year
2021.
did you hit that?
Mhm.
Like how long did it take you?
Okay, so I think it was 2019. Hold on. Yeah, that we it was like 900 and something thousand. So we just say million. It was like 990 or something because and then in 2020 we did 2.1, and we have typically doubled revenue annually since 2013, which was the official relaunch after that initial launch in 2010, which set me back 3 years. And so the lesson there to people that I say is don't rush the first production. Like, sure, don't wait till it's perfect, because a lot of people, if you wait till it's perfect to bring it to market, you'll never bring it to market. But um, get it a little bit closer. Don't just make sure it's ready, at least in a beta level, because yeah, 3 years is a long time. Like, had I not been set back 3 years, I'd be 3 years further and like at first to market, which we have some competitors like Saks, which got out in 2005. So we're like way behind them. And Two Under came around this a similar time frame that we did, but at the same time, I feel like everything happens for a reason. And so that delay was part of God's plan or something, because it actually benefited me. I was in a bad marriage, and she would have got 50% of that business if it had taken off. So I actually bought Sheath back from my ex-wife for $1,000 during the divorce, just because I didn't, I was just like, I don't want you to be a part of this, anyways. And so
So
then
so she was a co-founder for this company, or
no, I mean,
okay,
but when you're married,
okay,
that whole thing.
yeah.
And so we got divorced. I got the company. I bought it from her, and so that was like a blessing in disguise that it hadn't taken off yet, because otherwise, it would be a nightmare.
So the differentiating factor for this product is, of course, the pouch, but is the material also different? Is there something different about the material, or
Funny thing, so initially it was 100% cotton. I wanted
okay?
to, because I felt like changing a product completely would be too much for, let's just say, older generational type people who are used to their ways and they don't like change. So I wanted to introduce. Plus, I like cotton. Who doesn't like cotton? Cotton
Yeah.
is the fabric of our lives, and so I started with that, and then we went to like 95% cotton and some elastane to kind of give it some flexibility, and then we just started paying attention to trends in the market, and modal is a pretty durable, and uh, it's it's a high quality fabric. Modal, it's extracted from a beech tree. It's semi-synthetic. A lot of our competitors were using it, and being a soldier without any experience in this type of you know field of work, I was just like, copy what other people are doing,
Mm.
and that are successful, do that. So we changed to modal, 95% modal, and the majority of our products to this day are still made of 95% modal and 5% spandex, or some, I think it's 92% modal. But we just released a bamboo version, which you would, it's like, could it really be that much better? I'll let you guys be the judge of that. I think when I put them on, I was like, "Whoa, this is like," it was the cool. There was, it felt, and the modal feels the same way, but then there's levels to comfortability and stuff. And the bamboo, and people who wear bamboo, I guess, kind of know and like swear by it. But it's just a really smart fabric, I guess. So it cools you when it's hot. It keeps you warm when it's cool. It's you know uh, antimicrobial and stuff. I'm liking it, but we did just release it, so I'm waiting to get more feedback on that. And we have
Okay.
other fabrics like the polyester blends that uh, Under Armour might use and things like that.
So I know that you said that um, what got you laid, there were other competitors who were in the market and who have like similar designs and things like that. Um, and now you're probably, and I'm sure now there are more competitors. Um,
Couple, not
the
too
way,
many,
okay,
but go ahead. Not too many, but if there's like a dozen of us, I would say pouch. Even
okay.
Hanes just came out with their own pouch, or was it Fruit of the Loom? One of them. And so, but it's such a weird design. I was like, what does that even do? It's like got Velcro in it. I don't even get it. I'll have to go buy some. Check it out.
So so the
Sorry.
the way so the way you compete with these competitors now, the way you differentiate your company and your product, is it really your story, your backstory, and also the kind of people, the kind of market that you go after? So you mentioned that you sponsor a lot of UFC athletes and things like this. Um, can you share a little bit about your how you differentiate your brand, and what does it take to stand out in the marketplace?
Hmm. So what I do is find things that I like, that I resonate with, and market using those, like, athletes or entertainers, because because then it's a win-win, because I'm working with people I enjoy working, like I admire or look up to or get entertained by, but also they're promoting the product. And but here's the thing. Okay, so comedians, they they tell stories, they tell you things in a way that keep, you have a more open mind, and they hit a part of your brain that's more like maybe subconscious or whatever than a typical just somebody telling you about a product,
Yeah.
because you're listening to them, you're vulnerable, you're laughing. And anyways, so we use comedians, a lot of comedians. um, and I feel for a new idea, I felt like that it was important to use tactics that would break through that initial um, resistance from someone being presented a new product. So you make them laugh, break down their defenses. We've used like cartoons and drawings, and it is funny, kind of like if the product itself can be talked about in a funny way. You're talking about balls, and I don't know, it can be, see, that's it.
Yeah.
And so, and there's so many ways to describe it, and comedians come up with the most ingenious new descriptions of the product, which I love, because they're creative and all that. So that is huge. Don't tell anyone about that secret. And then I wanted to present it. I wanted people to feel like there would be a god almost. And I know that's like a strong word or whatever, but like, like a Greek god, like a mythology superhero, when they put them on. And so we want people that wear the product to present that image of
Mm.
larger than life, badass MFers, that. So that's where the fighters come in. And that's where we have this guy, Robert Oberst. He's the strongest man in the world. He's like the fourth strongest, but I say he's the strongest because it sounds better than the fourth
Mhm.
strongest. But I always correct myself because I don't want to lie. But anyway, strongest man in America, Robert Oberst, and that's not even true. He's still the fourth strongest. Anyways, so we're trying to present the product in a way that gives you hope. I'm reading this book, and there was a guy that created a makeup company back in the 1920s or whatever, and he never told the women that the product would make them beautiful, but
Mm.
he sold them the hope that it would, or some. And I don't know how he did that, but hope goes a long way. And because you can't tell, I can't tell a person that the underwear is going to make them strong and pretty, or but other people actually do say that. It's kind of funny. Like, people, our customers will be like, I put them on and I felt sexy, and that made me want to start working out. And so we have inspired people, and I think it's a lot of it's through our presentation of the product also, I guess we want to promote a healthy lifestyle, do yoga, do meditation, do breathing techniques, and work out, martial arts, all, the positive things that make a well balanced life. And you know we listen to Gary Vee. I'm sure everyone knows about Gary Vee. And
Yeah.
I don't really listen to him anymore, but I did a lot, and I've read some of his books, and you kind of get the gist of it. Hustle. I think he's just like work hard, grind, go, go,
Yeah.
go. But um, he also, he helped me get over my fear of doing these by telling, he's like, you don't have to be something you're not. Just be who you are, where you are right now, and show that progression of evolution over time of the entrepreneur. So you don't have to fake it. You fake it till you make it, kind of, but at the same time be real and show the people the journey. And that helped me just get on camera. I remember the first couple of times, uh-oh,
What?
I got onto like Facebook. Oh, I got a little notice saying my internet was unstable. Hopefully it's coming through okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
But I would, okay, good. I did Facebook, and I was like a deer staring in the headlights, because I was like, what do I say? I'm nervous. They're all going to laugh at you. But so I went on Twitter, where nobody watches their little Periscope lives, except like one person will pop in, and then 0 1, and dip my toe in the water of this. So he really helped me with that. And he's got a lot of good advice for young people trying to start something, I think.
Yeah. He's got some. I think he definitely has a gift of the gab, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's his gift. And I completely understand your, because I went through that phase also, being in front of video and things like that. Um, I think some people are naturally comfortable being out there and being in front of video, being and others, I guess, more of the introvert personality. There's a bit of an effort, but you have to get used to it, and then it becomes better for sure. So
I agree.
what so I know that so you said you had the first $5,000 you invested in the manufacturing, creating your first batch of product that didn't work out. Any entrepreneur who's starting out, their financing is always a challenge, right? If you have an idea, you need some money to get that started, especially if you're working with a physical product. What was your experience like? Did you just invest your own personal money? Did you try to fundraise somewhere? How did you finance your business in the beginning?
Both of those. I am mostly my own money for the longest time. And you asked earlier if I had a job. So like when I got out of the army, they have this thing where if you go to school, they'll pay you to go, like $1,500 a month. So I was getting $1,500 a month while I was getting my bachelor's. Then to keep it going, I went ahead and got my master's to keep getting that check while I was building the brand. And so this is into like 2013. Okay, and so I was getting money, um, and I went and got, I got a job at a golf course washing golf carts.
Mm-hmm.
I quit after like 2 months, but I did try, as I was just to get a little bit of extra money, and I was delivering Chinese food, not Chinese, yeah, Chinese food for a while, like in 2014. But that was kind of pay the bills. And okay, so at the same time, that $5,000, I had bought 1,000 pairs, and they were all ruined. But I went and worked at a tailor, Tony from Elite Tailoring, Vietnamese tailoring expert for sure. And I said to him, if will you let me work, like let me teach me how to sew, teach me how to work these machines, and I'll man your counters for free.
Mm.
and they were very suspicious. He had these old Vietnamese ladies in there, like, what do you want in here? Get out. And I was like,
Mm.
I have money. I was like, I don't need your money. I'm trying to learn, blah, blah, blah. So I proved to them that I get a deposit from the government, for the GI Bill. And anyways, so they ended up letting me work there, and he taught me how to sew. And so I was going to classes at night and stuff. So I did a lot of things, like kind of do whatever you got to do, whatever it takes to succeed. And that was 2012, and it was 2013. Like where when I'd been working there for about a year with him, and I redesigned the prototype and found a manufacturer and sent it to them. They sent it back to me, and so now I have this prototype. And if you have a prototype, you can do a Kickstarter. And I'm sure most people know what it is, but I'll explain
Yep.
if you don't. It's a crowdfunding website where you present a concept for a product. People pre-order that product in bulk. You take that money in a pool, pay the manufacturer, you get the product, and then send them all their orders like 6 months later. And they're cool with it because they want to support these growing businesses. And that was really cool. The bad part about that, well, it was successful, but it is stressful when because you have a month, and all we had
Yep.
to do was make like $8,000. I wasn't trying to get rich off. I just wanted to make
Mm.
just enough to pay the balance due. And I had gotten into an accident. I got rear-ended coming home from a Joe Rogan comedy special, and by a taxi. And so I got a refund, a insurance check like a month later. It was $5,000. And instead of fixing my car, because there wasn't that much damage, I sent that was the down payment for this initial batch of underwear from China. But I still needed the other 60%, because you got to put 40 down and then you pay 60 when the production is done. And so we had to be successful with the Kickstarter. Otherwise, I was going to have to sell my car to pay off the balance, which I would have done.
Wow.
So I was committed. Yeah, I mean, it was going to happen, but uh, the Kickstarter was successful, and we it was great. But then and people are loving it. They're ordering more. We sell out. I ordered more from China, and they did me dirty. We like to say in the South. They sent
Mm.
me product that was unsellable. It was mangled. There was threads coming out. The pouches were like sideways. I'm just like, why did you even bother to send that?
Mm.
It was literally they it was embarrassing. Anyways, it was embarrassing. And it took me a little, you don't open them up and look at them all. Like, like you open one or something and check it and make sure it's good. And the top one I think was fine, but like a
Mm.
lot of them were messed up. And so,
Mm.
but it took about 2 months to figure out that the resupply was garbage. And now what do? I just spent
So,
all my money on the new one.
so did you, when you went back to them and said, you sent me garbage, what was their response? What
They
did they
get
say?
they gave me 30% of my money back.
Wow.
So, and it's like, okay, I was like, okay. So
And this was through Alibaba, like just for other people's, so they can
dude,
learn from it.
great
This was,
question.
yeah.
It was not from Alibaba, but I do recommend them these days because it is uh I don't remember how we found, was it Alibaba? Originally I used a company called, it was like mfg.com, short for manufacturing.com. That was the initial one. I don't remember how I found this particular manufacturer, but I have, once you start making it, they'll start reaching out to you. And so I don't remember, but Alibaba is the go-to place now for the listeners. Yes, you can put in, just like a request, and then manufacturers will respond with their pricing and minimum order quantities, and terms and things, how much pay up front and whatnot. But this other, so we're just like, at this point we hit a roadblock because I have all this product I can't sell, and I'd spent all my money on that product. But we had customers that wanted more, and it was a weird position to be in, but still there was never any question of quitting or anything like that. But I was like, I don't know what to do, but do another Kickstarter, because that's what we did last time. That worked. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm like,
Mm,
that worked. Let's do that again, you know?
mm,
Um, and, but it's like, you can't do two in a row there, you can't do that. But turns out a lot of people do that actually.
mm.
A lot of people use Kickstarter, but that's beside the point. So we ended up doing it, and I spent that 30% that I got back from the previous company on the down payment for this new manufacturer. And I'll tell you this, because I there's a lot of anxiety, stress, worry, of the future when you're doing something like this, especially when something like that happens, and I put all my eggs in this basket. Um, but I never gave up. And there's like a line somewhere in one of these books or movies about, if you pass all the tests that the universe brings to you, and you show that you're not going to give up, it'll open its doors for you. But it's not going to let you through without going through all these tests. But I felt like, because I didn't give up, it did it. I said, okay, here you go.
Mhm.
And this manufacturer reached out to me, and they asked if they could create a sample for us, and I said yeah, and I sent it to them, and they made it better. They fixed it. They made it like a perfect piece of clothing.
And something now,
And well, I
sorry,
just wanted, like, when I would, and so like there was an interim period of worry, like, is this going to work still? But I would go to my closet in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep, and I'd put those underwear on, and I'd be like, yes, it's gonna work, because they were good. They were really good.
and I think at this point you had the validation from Kickstarter. Like, if people are willing to fund your idea, then you have a market there. So I think that probably gave you a bit more confidence also.
I was a little, yeah. I mean, I was a little bit nervous that they were gonna be like, you can't even get a production right. Why are we gonna buy from you again? But what ended up happening was they all bought again and told their friends, and so we kind of like doubled our previous Kickstarter on the second one, and and the rest is kind of like history, because we did 30,000 in 2013, we did 60,000 in 2014, then 150, then 250, then 500, then 900, then 2 million. And so it's like, not it's basically doubling most years. I think there was one year that I skipped where we went from five. I don't. There was one year where we didn't quite double. Actually, we only grew by like 30% or something. But for the most part, we've doubled, which is,
And
I don't know. Is that good? I think that's good.
that's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's pretty good, yeah. I think you have a good growth. Um, anyone who's watching and who's had like a similar experience, like buying from China, where they order something and they receive the bad batch of products. I think there's a lot of I'd be interested in hearing your what you do now to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I think what I've heard from a lot of people is there are actually specialized companies that are probably located in China, and for a small fee, they actually physically go to these manufacturing companies, and they check out at least, I think, 10 or 20% of the batch to make sure that everything fits the specification and things like that. And so I think that's a really great way to make sure that the products that you're ordering from far
Mm-hmm.
beyond where you are, that you're not wasting your money. Is this something that you do now, or?
I We have such a good relationship with this company that we've been with since 2014, the one that sent me that pair. Like, We've been with them since 2014, and so we haven't had to do that. We've had one issue, maybe two, with fabric being too thin or something. So what those guys do is they'll go in and measure the density and quality of the fabric, making sure it's up to the specifications that you send them, and they act on your behalf and just go test it like you said. And it's really cheap. It's like $100 or so. It's
Mm.
not that much money for them to go in there and do it. We just don't, because we don't need to, but those companies are out there that exist. I went to some fair in Las Vegas. I forget what it's called, but it's where a lot of vendors from all over the world go to present what they have to sell, to entrepreneurs here. And I forget it's like Testco or something, Testco, where they, you know, will do what you were just saying. And I do recommend it, especially because you might think it's going to be like extremely expensive, and it's not. And if you haven't done a production with a company, it's for that added, you know, confidence or, reassurance and protection. I definitely recommend it. I just don't, because we have our company that we've been working with, and we just found a new company, not just found, just started work making underwear with a new company, but we've been making shirts with them for like 5 years. And they, you know, will let us do smaller minimum orders. So for anyone that's like a minimum order of any particular product, like if you're going to make shirts or underwear, it's probably going to be about 2,000.
Mm.
Now you might get lucky and find a company that's willing to work with you, and then you do like 500. But that, just to give you, probably not going to get less than 500. And just putting that out there, because that is like a factor, a barrier of entry. It's like, okay, $5 or $10, whatever your price per thing is, times 2,000. That's what you, and then shipping, then the tariffs that were increased over the past few years.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a barrier to entry, which, that's what Kickstarter's for. And you got to make sure and factor that in. A lot of times people run a Kickstarter just to cover their costs, but don't factor in taxes and shipping, and then that has to come out of pocket. Just, factor that
Yep. I want to shift gears a little bit towards marketing.
in.
Um, I know that you've done some guerrilla kind of marketing. I know there was a story where you threw an underwear at Joe Rogan
Mm-hmm.
or something like
Yeah.
that. Can you share a little? I
Yeah.
mean, I want to hear that story,
Awesome.
but I also want to learn about what are some of the other kind of marketing that you're doing these days that is working for your company.
Okay. Right. So, big fan of Joe Rogan. And, it was December of 2012. I don't know the exact date, but I had the plan to go there and throw these underwear on the stage after his set. You don't want to like interrupt his comedy routine, but when he's done, throw him up there. And so I could tell he was done, because he's doing crowd work. We're in Austin, Texas, and he's just talking to the people, saying, jokes and whatnot, riffing it up. So I was like, this is my chance. And I'm recording it all. I do have it all audio recorded, but it's kind of cringy to listen to because it's pretty embarrassing. But so I throw him up there, and he noted, of course he noticed. He's like, what's this? An Austin is weird shirt? Or keep Austin weird shirt? And he picks it up. And he said, Sheath, a pouch for in your underwear. What are you trying to hide jugs in there? This is the stupidest idea I've ever heard of. Or maybe $1 billion idea. And I was like, thank you, when he said $1 billion idea. But I've had Joe Rogan since 2012 saying it's $1 billion idea. And I wanted to take that. And he also said, this is a horrible marketing idea. Don't do that. And he's, and to this day, well, not to this day, because there's a silver lining here that just happened recently, but he wouldn't take any of our. I wanted to sponsor his podcast. We sponsor a lot of podcasts. So you ask how we market, and
Mhm.
we promote on a lot of podcasts. but they're all former guests of Joe Rogan. It's like he's like Johnny Carson of our time. If you've been on Rogan and I liked you, I'm reaching out to you, I'm sponsoring you, and I'm gonna pay you, and so to represent Sheath. And so we got like all of his friends, like most of them, honestly, as many as we
Mm,
could, to,
mm,
and we started sponsoring them. So now 10 years later, no, 9 years later, one of our sponsored um, promoters, Michael Malice, I'll say his name. That guy kills it for us. He's so great. Michael Malice, I definitely recommend his podcast. But he went on Joe Rogan, and the last 20 seconds of this episode that aired last month, when Joe said, "Where can people find you?" He said, "Buy Sheath Underwear." And Joe Rogan said, it's like, did he remember? Did he not remember? I don't know. But he was like, "Oh, really? Sheath Underwear." He's like, "Is it good underwear?" And Malice said, "It's the best underwear. It's got a separate pouch for your And he was like, and they said some words I won't necessarily repeat, but he was like, he gave it the
mm.
And so we've been on Rogan now, and he knows about us. And that was just like like a dream come true, if you will, just to have our product mentioned on his show and him not delete it or whatever. I thought he might cut it out or something, because after it happened, and he had Michael Malice, he said, "How much will you pay me if I get you on Rogan?" I said, 10 grand. He said, "Okay." But thinking back though, it's like, if I had known it was going to be the last 20 seconds of a 3-hour podcast, I might not have said 10 grand. But I think it actually did something, but since Rogan's gone to Spotify, the numbers are down a
Mm.
lot. I mean, I used to listen to every episode. Now I listen to like 1 and 4 or something, maybe. Um, but our numbers did go up for him, and I'll like we're spending about 20% of our revenue on advertising. So if we're making $300,000, which we haven't hit that number yet, but I think we might this month, we're spending like 50 grand
Mm.
on ads, which is a lot, right? But one
Mm.
ad for Rogan is 10 grand. No, 50 grand, fifty
Okay.
thousand
Okay.
dollars for 1 minute. But the guys I'm paying, it varies. I've paid as high as 6,000 for Andrew Schultz, or $250 for Michael Malice, the same guy I just said that got us on Rogan. I was paying him $250 an episode, and that guy, we've we sponsor every episode, and it's gone up to about 450 per episode. And then we sponsor everything he does on YouTube, and he's gone on other podcasts and promoted our product, like Lex Friedman, great podcaster, love
Yeah.
that guy. um and Malice mentioned us on Lex Friedman, and that killed. So he's going on other people's podcasts and talking about us, and that's great. I want more people to do that. That's
And
huge.
and y-
That's
and
Go ahead.
and every time it is mentioned, you do see a bump in the sales.
Yeah, and we use codes to validate it. And some people are coming from, are using honey
Yeah.
codes or some different stuff, but his codes. He's our highest valued promoter, and we don't even. He's not our highest paid one. Don't tell him that. Hey, just kidding.
I know we're running out of time, so I guess I'll ask you this question. Uh, I want to know a little bit about your team. So you're almost 2 million in revenue. What does your team look like right now?
We have 5 people that live in a house in San Antonio, and then me here with my wife in a warehouse down in the basement. But we're actually moving the warehouse to another warehouse, and we've moved warehouses a lot. Anyways, but there's 7 team members currently active, with 2 kind of satellite. What would you call them? They're not employees. They're,
Remote?
yeah, I know. Yeah, but contractors. They're on the
Okay.
team, but they're not like officially on the team. So then that would make it 9, I think. And but we had a guy in the UK, but he just, as our inventory grew, he couldn't keep up with the just he didn't have space for it. We were like, he was doing it out of his house, and then we were right about to move into the UK officially with like a big 3PL, third party logistics. I forget the name of it, but and then COVID hit. And what was, and I know I have to go too, but what was interesting is we were producing all this inventory for to expand into Europe. COVID hit, and so I told China, I said, don't send it to Europe, send it to me. And that's why I have it in my basement right now, because we weren't doing shipping until COVID hit. Like we had just a warehouse company that ships for 300 other products, and those are horrible, by the way. I mean, I haven't found a good one yet. And so we, having brought it back home, it was doing well, but now we're doing so many orders a day that it's like we either have to build our own warehouse or go back, outsource it again. So we're outsourcing it again for now, because I don't want to be a warehouse worker.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be the CEO, But I have been, and I'm actually going to go back downstairs and do about 17 more orders after this. And I, did like 30, but we have a few different warehouses. Well, two right now, two total.
So you're doing your fulfillment on your own, like it's in-house.
Yes, but actually only about 20% is in-house. Like 80% is at this. It's a company in St. George. I don't know, it's St. George shipping or something, Utah, and it's just that's what they do. They ship stuff, but we're their only client, and that's why we went with them. Is because they're starting a new. They were like, we're starting a new fulfillment center, and I personally am tired of working with these companies that have 300 other, um, you know, people they're shipping for, because you have no priority. We want to take care of our customers, and he's giving us the kind of customer service, same day shipping level that we want for our customers. And we want to be like Amazon to an extent, and wow you with the shipping as well as the product and our customer service.
I know we only have maybe 1 minute left. I quickly want to do the rapid fire round. So I'll ask you a few questions and you have to answer them maybe one word or one sentence quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question is, do you have any book recommendations? I know you mentioned a few books. Do you have any book recommendations for entrepreneurs or business people?
I would just say Think and Grow Rich, and then this book, which is a derivative, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. I don't know if it's coming up,
Yeah.
but also written by Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich. You can't go wrong. It's a little dry, but everything's in there. All the other success books are a derivative of that book. Go ahead.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
I guess Tesla's. I don't know if that's how new that is, but we just got one and it's awesome.
Yeah. A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend, or a productivity tip?
We're using a Discord as a team communication platform that's been working really well. Slack is pretty good also. Discord's free. Go ahead.
A startup or business that you think is currently doing great things?
Startup or business that is currently startup
in e-commerce, retail.
Can I say Gas Digital Network? It's a podcast network, okay. And it's just something I can think of right now. They're doing really well.
A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you, besides Joe Rogan?
Well, I mean, okay, so Napoleon Hill. Who do I listen to right now? Where's Tim Dillon? They're not inspirational.
Any entrepreneur, any peer entrepreneur that you learned from?
I know. I mean, I would say Gary Vee, but like maybe let's say Andy Frisella. I like him. You know who he is? The MF CEO. He owns First Form.
Okay.
And I used to listen to him a lot. I do recommend him. I haven't listened to him in a while, but he's also kind of like a real no nonsense business, get it done, and a lot of principled. Like there's stuff. You don't have to reinvent anything to be successful. The principles are all laid out before you. You just
Yeah.
have to kind of do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he lays it out for you like that.
And final question, best business advice you have ever received or you would give to other entrepreneurs?
hmm. I mean, there's so many. You have to be persistent, and when it's not over until you give up. I guess that's what I would say.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for joining me today at Trip Talk. Thank you for sharing your story and sharing your business insights. Where can people buy your products? Where can people listen to your podcast? How can people get in touch with you?
Thank you so much. Go to sheathunderwear.com. We're also available on Amazon. That's SHEATH underwear.com. And Amazon. I have a podcast, the Robert Patton Global Podcast. It's on all the different platforms, including YouTube. My handle is Bobby the Bank. If you want to follow me and see what I'm about, I don't have that many followers. I'm trying to build my public profile. Bobby the Bank on all the platforms.
Perfect.
So that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you sharing your story and all the business insights. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today at Trip Talks.
I really appreciate you. Thank you very much for asking, and it was fun.